My name is Ava Johnson. I'm 25 years old. If I could freeze one moment in time, just one, it would be the second before I opened that door, before everything inside me shattered. My name is Ava Johnson, 30 years old, and for months I'd been working overtime to build something beautiful, something that said, "We're ready. We're building a life together." That something was a brand new top floor apartment with floor to ceiling windows, sunlight spilling over the city skyline, and enough space for the life I thought we were about to begin. Ethan Ross, my fiancé, didn't know a thing. I wanted to surprise him. I wanted him to walk through those glass doors, look around, and see proof that all my late nights and canceled weekends were for us. When the elevator doors opened, I was practically shaking with excitement. I had candles ready, champagne chilling in a silver bucket, and the keys warm in my palm. He arrived a few minutes later, smiling that easy smile that still made my chest tighten. His best friend, Melissa, trailed behind him, holding a wrapped box. "What's this?" Ethan laughed, glancing at me as I handed him the keys. "Just something I've been saving for," I said. "Go on, open it." The moment the door swung open, the world turned golden. "Oh my God, Ava," he whispered, stepping inside. "You did this?" Melissa gasped, spinning in a slow circle. "Are you kidding me? This place is insane." I couldn't stop smiling. They moved through the space like kids exploring a castle, the walk-in closet, the marble kitchen island, the balcony that stretched across the skyline. Ethan ran his fingers along the countertop, turned back to me, and pulled me into his arms. "I can't believe this," he murmured against my hair. "You're incredible." In that instant, every overtime hour, every extra shift, every sleepless night felt worth it. This was the moment I had pictured 100 times, his face softening, his arms wrapping around me, the quiet joy of knowing we were finally stepping into our future. I excused myself to grab the champagne from the car, practically floating down the hallway. The building smelled like new paint and promise. I remember humming under my breath, fumbling for the cooler in my trunk. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. When I came back, the apartment door was slightly ajar. I could hear their voices, Ethan's low, Melissa's sharp and teasing. I was about to knock when I heard my name. Melissa giggled. "You really lucked out, huh? She actually got this place." Ethan's voice dropped to a whisper I'd never heard before, amused, conspiratorial. "Yeah, it's perfect. Makes things easier for Clara." Clara. That name hit like a slap. His ex. The one he swore was just a friend. The one who still commented hearts under his photos, who once texted him at midnight just to talk. Melissa snorted. "Easier, huh?" "Yeah," Ethan said, laughing softly. "Her old place was too small. It was always a hassle for Clara to visit when Ava was out of town. This is way simpler." The laughter that followed was sharp and casual, like the sound of glass cracking. I couldn't breathe. The champagne bottle slipped from my hand, cushioned only by the cooler bag. My fingers went numb. I stood there, frozen, staring at that narrow crack in the door, the gap between the life I thought I had and the truth that had been living beside it all along. He wasn't seeing a home. He was seeing a new stage for the same lie. Every soft promise, every "I love you," every wedding plan suddenly twisted into something rotten. I wanted to burst through that door, to scream, to demand an explanation, but I didn't. Instead, I stepped back. I waited until their laughter turned to the sound of footsteps, until I could school my face into something calm, pleasant, stupidly happy. Then I pushed the door open, smiling. "Who's ready for a toast?" I said brightly, holding up the champagne. Melissa spun around, startled, while Ethan flashed that same charming grin. "You're amazing, babe," he said, crossing the room. I smiled back, steady as stone. "You have no idea." We toasted to new beginnings. He kissed me, and I let him. I let him hold me under the golden light of the place that would never be his. That night, while he slept beside me, his arm draped over my waist, I stared at the ceiling and replayed every word. Easier for Clara. 2 days later, he was locked out of the lease he never signed. And the look on his face when he realized, that, right there, was my new beginning. For the next 48 hours, I played the role of my life. Fiancé, partner, believer. If heartbreak were a stage, I deserved a standing ovation. Ethan had no idea that every laugh, every kiss, every "I can't wait to start our life here" was laced with venom so quiet he couldn't taste it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't confront him. I simply smiled, memorized, and planned. We spent the weekend celebrating. He posted photos of us on the balcony, captioned our dream home, my dream girl. Every like, every heart-shaped emoji was a needle pressing into my skin, proof that the world saw him as perfect, and me as lucky. He didn't notice the way my fingers tightened around my champagne glass. He didn't notice that when he leaned in to kiss me, I turned my face just slightly away. He didn't notice anything. That was the moment I realized how blind love could make a person, not just to flaws, but to danger. Monday morning came wrapped in soft gray light. Ethan left early for work, humming as he buttoned his shirt, still glowing from the illusion of us. The second the door shut, I exhaled for the first time in 2 days. Silence, finally. My phone buzzed with the message from him. Ethan, can't wait for you to move in fully. Love you. I stared at it for a long time, then deleted it. The first thing I did was pull out a notebook. My project journal, he thought. It became my blueprint for erasing him. Step 1, secure everything. The lease, utilities, deposit, all in my name. Check. Step 2, separate finances. I had paid most of the wedding expenses anyway. I called the bank, requested a freeze on the joint account, and scheduled an appointment to cancel the shared credit card. Step 3, stay calm. That was the hardest part. There were moments when the grief cracked through, when my hands trembled so badly I had to set my pen down. I loved him. God help me, I did. But love without respect is self-destruction, and I'd already seen enough wreckage. So I thought about my mother. She'd once told me, when someone betrays you, don't burn yourself to keep them warm. Let them feel the cold. So I did. That evening, Ethan called from his car. Hey, babe. Melissa and I are grabbing dinner to go over wedding playlists. You good? Of course, I said, keeping my tone soft, almost sweet. I could picture them laughing over pasta, probably talking about Clara, their little secret. He'd call it nothing. She'd call it just nostalgia. And I would call it evidence. I went to the apartment alone. No music this time, no candles. Just me and the echo of his lies bouncing off the walls. I walked through each room, running my hand along the fresh paint, whispering to myself like I was talking to the building. This isn't yours, Ava. It's not for him. It's for you. The city lights outside blurred through the windows like tears I refused to shed. By midnight, I had packed up the small box of his things he'd left. Cufflinks, cologne, a framed photo of us from last Christmas. The smile in that photo made me nauseous. I placed it all in the hall closet. Tomorrow I would decide what to do with it. Before going to bed, I wrote one more note in my journal. He thinks I'll crumble. He thinks I'll cry, beg, scream. I won't. I'll vanish from the version of me he knew, and when he reaches for me, he'll find air. Tuesday morning, I woke up early, brewed coffee, and looked out at the skyline. The same view he'd called ours. It was mine now. The next morning, my hands didn't shake, not once. That's how I knew the performance was over. For 2 days, I'd played Ethan's devoted fiancé, nodding at his wedding plans, pretending to care about napkin colors and seating charts. But now, the mask had done its job. It had bought me time. Time to quietly take everything back. 9:12 a.m. I dialed the building manager, Mr. Lawson. My voice was calm, professional. Hi, this is Ava Johnson from Unit 12-1. There's been a change in my living situation. The engagement's been called off. I'll be living alone. I'd like the locks changed immediately. He hesitated. Is everything okay, Ms. Johnson? Yes, I said smoothly. I just need to make sure the apartment remains secure. The lease is in my name only. He didn't question me further. Of course, I can have a locksmith there by 5 this evening. Perfect. The word felt almost musical leaving my mouth. My second call was to the moving company. I canceled the service for next weekend, forfeiting the deposit. Personal change of plans, I told them. Third, the jeweler. I canceled the wedding bands. No hesitation. Then, the bank. I closed the joint wedding account, the one I'd funded almost entirely. The clerk's voice was polite but curious. Would you like to transfer the remaining balance to your personal account? Yes, I said, every cent. Each phone call chipped away at the illusion that he and I had ever been equals. Every transaction had been mine. The lease, the rent, the effort. By noon, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. I packed a small duffel bag, gloves, spare keys, storage papers. Before heading out, I stood by the full-length mirror. For the first time in days, the woman staring back at me didn't look like a victim. She looked deliberate. At 4:30 p.m., I stopped at a storage facility 6 blocks from the apartment. The manager, a kind older man named Victor, smiled when I asked for a small unit. Temporary breakup cleanup, he joked, typing my name into the system. Something about his tone, light and harmless, made me smile. Something like that, I replied. I rented it for 1 month, under Ethan's name, paid in advance, and left the contract unsigned in the clipboard slot. A little poetic touch. By the time I reached the apartment, the locksmith van was already parked out front. The apartment was exactly how we'd left it. Flawless. Except now I could see the ghosts of our performance in every detail. The half-empty champagne bottle, the forgotten glass with his fingerprint, the faint scent of his cologne in the air. One by one, I gathered his belongings, the extra toothbrush, the cufflinks, his suits. His leather jacket still hung on the coat rack, mocking me. As I placed it carefully into a box, a strange sense of calm washed over me. This wasn't rage. This was control. By the time the locksmith knocked, I had everything neatly stacked by the door. He worked quickly, replacing the old lock with a new matte black one. The sound of the final click felt like the closing of a chapter. He handed me the new keys. I thanked him, then took the old ones, the pair I had once placed lovingly into Ethan's hand, and walked outside. There was a sewer grate near the curb. I held the keys over it for a moment, thinking about what they symbolized. Promises, plans, the kind of trust you only give once. Then I let them fall. The metallic clatter echoed for a second, then vanished. By the time I got home, the sun had set. My phone rang the moment I walked through my old apartment door. Ethan. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times, then picked up. Hey, he said, his voice sharp with irritation. My key isn't working. I went to drop off another box, and I can't get in. Did you grab the wrong set? No, I said evenly. That key is obsolete. Silence. What does that mean? It means the locks have been changed. What? Why? The doorman said... I know, I cut in, my voice as flat as glass. I asked him to let the locksmith in. He laughed, disbelieving, nervous. Okay, very funny. What's going on, Ava? What's going on, I said quietly, is that you don't live there. You never did. The line went dead for a moment. Then, Ava, what are you talking about? I could almost hear his heartbeat through the static. I heard you, Ethan. I was at the door. You and Melissa, talking about Clara, about how the apartment makes things easier. He inhaled sharply. You heard that? Every word, every laugh. There was a pause, the kind that feels like a knife pressing into silence. Finally, he stammered, It was a joke, Ava. Come on. Melissa exaggerates. Stop. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. Here's what's going to happen. You're not my fiancé anymore. You're not moving into my apartment. Your things are in a storage unit. I'm texting you the address and the unit number. The rest of your belongings are still at your old place. Maybe call your landlord before it's too late. You can't do this, he snapped, his voice rising. My name is on the lease. No, I interrupted. It's not. The lease is in my name. The deposit was my money. The rent came from my account. You have no legal right to that apartment. He exhaled sharply. You're being insane, Ava. I hung up. Then I blocked his number, and Melissa's. The screen went dark. The war, I knew, was just beginning. And tomorrow he'd find out what that meant. I expected anger. I didn't expect the theatrics. By morning, my phone was a battlefield. Dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages, some from mutual friends, others from numbers I didn't even recognize. Ethan and Melissa had gone on the offensive. They posted curated fragments of our story online, pictures of us smiling in the apartment, the caption twisted into something tragic. When love turns cruel. I thought I found my forever, but she blindsided me, locked me out of the home we built together, for no reason. The comments poured in, sympathy for him, outrage for me. He played the victim perfectly. And Melissa, she played the chorus. Her version of events spread like smoke. Apparently I was unstable, controlling, emotionally volatile. They'd cut me clean out of my own narrative and painted themselves as survivors. At first, I tried to ignore it. I went to work. I answered client calls. I smiled when coworkers asked about the engagement. But then came the phone call that changed everything. Ms. Johnson, a smooth male voice said, I'm calling from the property management office. We received a few inquiries from someone claiming to be your fiancé. He said you locked him out illegally. I took a slow breath. He's mistaken, I said evenly. The lease is under my name only. I can provide documentation. He hesitated. Yes, we've verified that. I just wanted to warn you. He seems agitated. Agitated. The word made me smile. Thank you, I said softly. I'll handle it. That evening, I poured a glass of wine and opened my laptop. If Ethan wanted to turn this into a performance, he'd forgotten who wrote the script. Because I had something he didn't, proof. The building had a high-end security system, cameras and audio in all common areas for resident safety. The hallway outside my apartment door was a common area. The conversation I overheard, the one where they laughed about making it easier for Clara, had been recorded. I emailed Mr. Lawson, the building manager, formally requesting the audio for personal and legal reasons. He replied within 2 hours, attaching the file. I pressed play. The voices came through clear. Melissa's whisper, Ethan's laugh, the damning sentence that changed everything. This is perfect. Clara won't have to sneak around anymore. Hearing it again hurt, but it also healed. Because now I didn't just know, I could prove. That night, I wrote a single email. The recipient list, every person who had been invited to our wedding, family, friends, colleagues, even his parents. Subject, for clarity. Body. There's been misinformation regarding the end of my engagement to Ethan Ross. I believe transparency is important, so I'm sharing the facts. Below is an audio clip recorded in the hallway outside my apartment. It contains the conversation that ended our engagement. I trust it will answer any questions. Attached, the 36-second file that dismantled his reputation. I hovered over send. For a split second, guilt flickered, the ghost of the girl who used to love him. Then I clicked. Send. The effect was instant. By morning, the silence online was deafening. His posts were gone. Melissa's page had vanished. By noon, mutual friends started messaging me apologies. I'm so sorry, Ava. I had no idea. I listened. I feel sick. I can't believe he did that to you. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Truth, once released, doesn't need defending. It just burns. Later that day, a mutual friend texted me something I hadn't expected. Ethan's parents pulled the plug on the wedding. They heard the audio. I sat in the quiet, watching sunlight stretch across my living room floor. I should have felt triumphant, victorious. But all I felt was tired. You don't win when you expose a liar. You just stop losing. 2 days later, Ethan's number flashed on my phone again. Blocked. Then an unknown number. Then another. Finally, a text. You didn't have to ruin me. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed one reply. I didn't ruin you, Ethan. I just stopped covering for you. And I never heard from him again. When I closed my phone that night, I caught my reflection in the dark window. Tired eyes, quiet mouth, steady heartbeat. For the first time in weeks, I recognized the woman staring back. She wasn't angry, she wasn't broken. She was free. 6 months later, the city feels different. The same skyline, the same light, but somehow softer, like the air stopped holding its breath around me. The apartment that once carried his shadow now feels alive again. My plants are thriving. There's art on the walls, not wedding plans pinned to corkboards. And at night, the silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like peace. I live alone, and I've never been more content. People warned me revenge wouldn't make me feel better. They were half right. Revenge didn't heal me. But truth did. The truth set a fire that burned away everything false, every apology, every performance, every version of him that existed only because I believed in it. I still hear whispers sometimes. Updates passed along by well-meaning friends who don't realize I don't care anymore. Ethan's life unraveled faster than I expected. After the email went out, his reputation at work crumbled. His company quietly restructured his department. Melissa's social circle turned on her too. Apparently, she lost a few clients and a lot of dignity. As for Clara, the mysterious ex who started it all, she disappeared the second the scandal started. No texts, no defense. No, it's not true, just gone. The irony still makes me smile. Ethan lost everything trying to keep 2 women, and ended up with none. A few weeks ago, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Ms. Johnson? A man his voice asked. This is Robert from Hillview Storage. We need to notify you that Unit 213 under Ethan Ross's name hasn't been renewed. It'll be cleared if no one claims it. I laughed softly. Clear it, I said. Everything inside is exactly where it belongs. Sometimes I think about the last day I saw him. It wasn't some grand confrontation. There were no cameras, no shouting, no closure speech, just an accident. It was a Saturday morning. I was at the hardware store picking up light bulbs. I turned a corner and almost collided with him. For a split second, my stomach dropped. Reflex, not regret. He looked Smaller, not physically, but spiritually. The confident, self-assured man who once commanded every room now stood there with hunched shoulders, a faded hoodie, and eyes that didn't know where to land. Beside him stood his mother, her expression a cocktail of pity and resentment. He froze when he saw me. "Ava," he said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't say a word. His mother started to open her mouth, but he tugged her arm gently, shaking his head. They turned and walked the other way. No shouting, no begging, just distance. And honestly, that silence was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. When I got home that evening, I poured a glass of wine and stood on the balcony, watching the lights flicker across the skyline. I thought about everything that had happened, how something so ugly had led me here, to this quiet, steady kind of peace. I used to think strength meant holding on longer. Now I know it's the ability to let go faster, to not waste another heartbeat trying to resuscitate what died long ago. Ethan didn't just lose me. He lost the version of himself that existed because I believed he was better. And me? I finally learned that I don't need someone to build a home. I am the home. So here's the ending he'll never get to hear. Not because I want to hurt him, but because I've outgrown needing him to listen. He thought I was building a place for us. But all along, I was building the space where I'd finally learn to live without him. And in that space, I'm free.